Hey everyone, this is smpratte, and today we're going to talk about the state of the hobby. This has been a very hot topic recently, and in my opinion, this is the most exciting time for Pokemon ever. Sure, you can talk about the 90s as the original era, it was historic, but there are more people today collecting, excited, aware of Pokemon than ever. I'm talking like your friends, family. I have never had so many people talk about the hobby, accept the hobby, and appreciate Pokemon than right now. And I think it's a very special thing. I think that's what a lot of people have been striving for, at least myself, Gary, and people who've been around a very long time. You know, we really have to do a little story time here about how just much of a wasteland Pokemon was 10 years ago. I remember 10 years ago, I remember being in Italy and met a guy, some American dude, you would stereotype him as like a gym rat, easily benching 300 pounds without question. And I remember we were hanging out for a while and, you know, I told him what I did and he like opened up and was like, oh yeah, I like play Pokemon Red like however often, you know, I really like the game, it's nostalgic, whatever. Some people needed that like acceptance, right? Like that, whatever you want to call it, these big YouTubers, blue check markers, you know, making these videos and making it more acceptable. And that's what you're experiencing. You know, the wave of people that we have today is nothing new. It's just much larger than ever and much faster than ever. And ultimately, I think it's the same process of these people who grew up with it. And, you know, maybe they weren't aware of it being a thing. They weren't aware of like the people living in grandma basements talking to you in the camera. They weren't aware of all that. And these big mainstream channels made them aware of it. You know, it really locked in and like reconnected them to that experience. So I think that's what's going on. And I think, again, it cannot be understated how this is just such a massive positive thing to have so many people appreciate that you can share this hobby with in a way you never could. You know, you had to like come out as a Pokemon collector back in the day. Like back in the mid 2000s, like being a Pokemon collector was one of those things where it's like when you said it, the room went quiet. You know, it was like, okay, like what's this dude talking about? So now it's become something that's so accepted. And that's because I think a lot of people shared the same experience. And again, going through that cycle of like all these mainstream platforms, you know, talk about it. And it's like a dream come true at the end of the day to see so many people enjoying the hobby, because that's ultimately what you want. Now, of course, because of growth, there's always some type of cost. You know, I say this all the time. Anytime you have a bigger anything, building, whatever, the shadow increases as well. And right now, that frustration for most people is mainly the inability to get product because it's more scarce, naturally, because you have more consumers. First and foremost, just be patient. Pokemon's aware. We'll go through it in detail, but Pokemon is aware that there is a shortage. More importantly, this is nothing new. You know, when I'm talking about this acceptance, you know, more exposure, things like that, we've had this in iterations throughout time. We had in 2018, 2016 is literally what we're doing right now, except on steroids. 2016 was Pokemon Go, 20th anniversary, evolutions, like the trifecta. There were a lot of people who entered because of those things. You know, it was a great entry point for a lot of people. Even guys like PokeRev, who are a staple today, they joined during that, you know, 2016 era. And that's all it was. It was the same deal what we have now, except just a smaller degree. But we had the same issues, like the same symptoms of product shortage. I remember Evolutions ran out of distribution, which was unprecedented. You never had that before. Before it was like, okay, here are your boxes. Hopefully you can sell them for maybe 5% profit, because that's what it was back then. But Evolutions changed that. And then they went overboard and printed too much and overcorrected, where now I would say it's easily like 20 times as crazy as then. So naturally, because it is such a larger explosion of growth, you need that recovery time as well. So because you had such like an expedited explosion, ooh, there's an alliteration, you have to have that much recovery, if that makes sense. You know, it's such a great amount of growth in such a short period of time. So it's going to take that much time to recover as well, which is what Pokemon is doing. We've heard the rumor mill of reprints for a lot of sets. We've heard the rumor mill of new printing facilities, more short-term focused. You have more Shining Fates, at least anecdotally, that I've noticed available on the market. I looked it up before recording just to make sure. There were like 3,700 ETBs by now, starting between like 70-ish to 80, somewhere in there. You know, that's first print, first wave. There's supposed to be more to come. Even Hidden Fates right now. Hidden Fates is cheaper right now with all this growth and everyone their dog in the game. Hidden Fates is cheaper right now than it was like 2 years ago or a year-ish ago, you know, whenever it dropped. So that's what I want to put out there as a positivity right now, because I do see some vitriol. some negativity, some stuff cross-posted on E4 that I don't like seeing, because at the end of the day, everyone needs a reminder that we all enjoy the same hobby. After it's all said and done, if we talk to each other like people, like if I sat in a room and talked to people, even people who disagree with me or perhaps don't like me, I guarantee talking to them, listening to one another, you're going to find some common ground. And I think a lot of people are reacting emotionally and blaming people who aren't the problem. The one message I wanted to get out there not only is to be patient, but also division is not going to solve any issue. You know, if you're frustrated because ETB is a little more scarce and, you know, you're blaming whoever it is, big YouTubers, that's not going to get product back on the shelves. You know, that's not going to fix your situation. All that's going to do is just further make you unhappy. More importantly, I think it's going to shorten you, and you're not going to be able to understand and thrive in the hobby or in the market and enjoy it. Just on a basic level, not even like making stonks, like just basic level. Like you won't enjoy it as much because you got this unhappiness that you're like, you know, watering and nurturing every day. And ultimately it's not going to solve anything. You know, getting frustrated like these guys, like the big blue checkmark YouTubers, you know, who pretty much put their entire life, sweat, and blood into what they do. Like I can't think of a YouTuber in this hobby who isn't putting in 60 hours a week minimum. And, you know, it's just constant work. It's all they do. Like I've met these guys at tournaments and watched them go 14 hours straight with nothing but like coffee and a Danish. And they're just sitting there steady. Like after the signing or meeting supposed to be closed, they're still there talking to people. They're still there excited about the hobby. So my takeaway here is ultimately a big positive, like overall, like refresh, like chill out. Everything is going to be okay. Like we've been here before, and the only difference is it's going to take more time. You know, going back to 2016, you had Roaring Skies at $300 a box, which this is 2016, guys. Like that's a big deal. Today, that would be like $3,000 a box, right? Like right out of the gate. So $300 a box, Pokemon was aware. And what they do, they're like, here we go. Here's the tidal wave. And almost immediately, it knocked it way into the ground. And I made a video about that before. You know, you don't want to have it saturated. You want to keep it in the middle. You want to have a nice challenge. And that's, you know, the healthy balance, I think, really keeps people engaged and excited about collectibles in general. But more importantly, we've been through this. It's just a matter of time. You know, you got to stay patient. In the meantime, don't try to divide one another because it's not going to solve anything. You know, there's no solution in that. And lastly, the one thing I want to talk about is that idea of saturation. I don't know if you can see the meme over here. There's a Beanie Baby off camera. But I used to have a Beanie Baby with a pack of energy cards in its lap. Because saturation is the death of collectibles. Period. It's not even an opinion. It's just a statistical reality. It's just a numbers game. The easiest way to say it is if Charizard was an energy, it wouldn't be Charizard. You wouldn't care. We wouldn't be here talking about it. There'd be no challenge. If there's no challenge, there's no point. And back in 2017, that's what you had. You had too much product. It went the other way. Where today, we could use a little more product. There's more demand. But back in 2017, if you were not here, there's a lot of new YouTubers, a lot of the people sucking you into their open mouth thumbnails, a lot of people that are really trying to, you know, create this gossip and divide people. They simply just don't have enough experience to understand we've been through this before. This isn't our first rodeo. And you want to balance those scales. You don't want to have too much product. You don't want to have too little product. You want to find that nice little balance. And, you know, that ending point of saturation and death of the hobbies is just universal. Go look at any dead hobby. It either died because there was little nor organic demand, or there was some type of demand and it was just obliterated with too much supply, i.e. Beanie Babies. If you do a deep analytic on Beanie Babies, it was something that people were excited about. You know, to this day when I see Beanie Babies, I was like, oh yeah, that was a good time, you know, back in the 90s. But at the end of the day, it didn't have that engagement that Pokemon did. You know, it wasn't as much of an experience as Pokemon is, you know, or something like Magic where you play the game, there's a strategy, there's a deep engagement that was lacking in Beanie Babies. But more importantly, there was no such thing as a majority of them weren't rare. They weren't limited. They would just be like, oh yeah, we'll just print more of those. Let's make more of them, you know, and you don't want that. You know, there's so many hobbies that you can go look through, so many extinct hobbies, some that you won't even know because they didn't even make it out there into the sunlight. Like they just didn't even like sprout from the ground because they just did not have the fundamentals, you know, to thrive, where Pokemon does. And more importantly, Pokemon also listens. Sure, they don't listen to every word you say. You know, they can't satisfy every collector's frustration. but they do listen enough to adjust these big macro situations where, okay, there's a big shortage of supply, so we're going to adjust that. You're already seeing it. You're already seeing hints of it. And, you know, I'm going on a limb saying this, but there's going to be a day when those scales balance. There's going to be a day when there's enough product out there that these scales come back down. It's a big risky statement to make, but I'm going to do it because there's indicators already. And more importantly, we've been down this road before. Again, like evolutions, all this stuff, we've done it before. It's just a much bigger degree now. And, you know, it'll be rectified. Not to mention like Japan is like, just like their friggin' speed railway or whatever, their high-speed trains, like it's so efficient. You know, they throttle products so well, like with Shining V. Just one more data point to throw at you. You know, they realize this is a very good set. So what they do, they don't just demolish supply. They're like, okay, we'll give you another small print and we'll see if that's enough. And if it is, we're good to go. That's how they do it. That's how they've done it forever. And it works out very well. They have a fantastic model over there for 25 years steady. And, you know, English is just trying to figure out a way because, again, this stuff is on the shelves. It's, you know, there's more people buying it. It's a very easy consumable product. It's right there in the store. Where Japan is, again, more insulated. It's a different system. But point being is that the hobby, the franchise, they do listen. It just takes time. So there you go. That's my state of the hobby right now. I think we have to remind ourselves that Pokemon has exceeded everybody's expectations. Like, that cannot be overstated. And we really wholesale need to remember that at the end of the day. Because I think there's a lot of vitriol and a lot of frustration that gets put in the wrong places. Ultimately, it's just like, okay, you got to be patient, and patience is a virtue. It's not easy sometimes. But that's the answer, you know, especially with English Modern. I feel like that's the majority of the gripe because, like, there's so many cheap Japanese stuff. I'm like I'm just like, yeah, this stuff's super affordable. Like, right here, like, still very affordable card, still Japanese exclusive, hand-drawn art. I mean, there's so much going on in the hobby all the time. And the final point I want to make is don't get stuck in the Safari Zone, you know, talking about 2016 and, you know, some of the patterns I see from there today. I know really good people back then who got stuck in that frustration, and they still today blame the market on like Pokemon Go bubble and things like that. And it's like, that's going to make you miss all the opportunity. Like, not only the stonk opportunity, but just having fun and enjoying, you know, the hobby that we all love. So anyway, hopefully that is my normal, like, realistic, positive perspective. That's just how I see it right now. There's so much to focus on. There's so much positivity. There's so many people excited about Pokemon. And again, the frustration of product and shortage of supply, I think it's going to be rectified over time. It's just going to take time. So there you go. As usual, you know the deal. Let me know how you feel, guys. That's pretty much it. Till next time.